In 2022, Nestor Cortes was the best pitcher on the New York Yankees, leading the team in ERA at 2.44, earning a trip to the 2022 All-Star Game in Los Angeles, and looking like a mainstay in the Yankees rotation for years to come. The Yankees had huge expectations going into 2023, not just for themselves, but also for Nestor Cortes, and instead, just like the team, Nestor Cortes would go down in flames, suffering multiple injuries throughout the season, including a season-ending left rotator cuff injury, and even when he was healthy, he had a 4.97 ERA and got absolutely shelled towards the back half of the year. Nestor Cortes is going to need to bounce back this year if the Yankees want any chance of going on to win the World Series, and this is how he can have a resurgent year and return to his all-star form in 2024. Before we get into today's video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. We greatly appreciate your support, and of course, doing all of that stuff is completely free. We are one-stop shop for New York Yankees content, and if you want to check out our other social media pages, we've got a Facebook, we've got an Instagram, a TikTok, and we've also got a Twitter page. You guys want to check out all of those socials, links are in the description, and if you want written coverage of this team and any of your favorite New York sports teams for that matter, you can check out EmpireSportsMedia.com. Again, links are all in the description, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. There's no way to sugarcoat this. Last year was an absolute disaster for Nestor Cortes, and he would tell you the same thing. He only made 12 starts, he was awful in those 12 starts, and if you look at what happened in his 2023 season, it wasn't an immediate stretch of failure, the same way you would look at Carlos Rodon's season and say there was no point during the year where he genuinely looked like he was fully back. Cortes was pretty strong through his first 5 starts, posting a 3.49 ERA and a 20% strikeout to walk percentage. Now, that isn't where he was in 2022, but I don't think anybody expected him to put up a 2.44 ERA again, and having a mid-3 ERA and pitching through the entire season would certainly be a success for a guy who isn't really a top-of-the-line starter. Things would change at the end of the month, though, as he would face the Texas Rangers, and you would see an immediate change to some of his stuff. Instead of averaging 20.2 inches of vertical carry on the four-seamer, that would drop to 19 inches, which doesn't seem like a dramatic change, but that caused a stuff plus decrease from 107 to 98. That's nearly an entire standard deviation, and that's a huge change for a four-seam fastball to make, and that worsened his entire profile. Another pitch that took a big hit was his cutter. It lost 1.5 inches of vertical movement, and it went from a pitch that generated soft contact to a pitch that got absolutely hammered when thrown in zone. The biggest pitch that took a regression last year for him was his cutter, as while last year batters only slugged 366 and it gave him a +9 run value, this past season it would be a net neutral pitch with batters slugging 554 against it. The two things you want to avoid as a pitcher is allowing a higher quantity of contact and a worse quality of contact, and that's exactly what happened for Nestor Cortes. Batters didn't just get more batted balls against his cutter, but they also did more damage upon impact, and that made his cutter a really bad pitch for him down the stretch, and instead of being able to throw it over the zone, get swings and misses, get called strikes, pair it off with a four-seam fastball, it was a detriment, and he had to try to work that pitch back into his arsenal because you can't be a one-pitch pitcher in this league. It reflected in his fastball usage as it went from 43.8% in 2022 to 52.1% in 2023, and while the four-seamer remained an above-average pitch, it was certainly worse than the one he was throwing the year prior, and again, I think that just has to do with deception. Batters knew what was coming because they knew he couldn't rely on the cutter to get outs, and so they could sit on that four-seam fastball and crush it when they got one they could hang with. He also didn't have an excellent tertiary pitch. It's not like Cortes has always been a 3-pitch pitcher, but his sweeper was noticeably worse this year, and again, I do attribute that to not having a great cutter. I think that cutter is the equalizer for him. It's that secondary pitch that blends his four-seamer and sweeper together, because the four-seamer doesn't have a lot of arm side action, but the sweeper does have a lot of glove side movement. There's about 21 to 22 inches of horizontal difference between the two pitches, and that cutter sits squarely in between the two, and it causes batters to have to adjust for whatever he's throwing. Obviously, Nestor Cortes is a master of deception. He can change his arm angles, he can throw from a lower slot, he can throw from a higher slot, he can mess with his timing, he can mess with his delivery, but that kind of stuff can only get you so far when you don't have one of your best pitches going for you. Entering 2024, health is going to be the biggest variable here. Nestor Cortes is going to have to prove that he can stay healthy and he can pitch enough during the season so that the Yankees can rely on him in the rotation. And as much as us as fans may understand that, Nestor Cortes understands that more than anybody else. This is the second to last year before he hits free agency, his second arbitration year, and the Yankees do not have to guarantee his salary for 2025. If Nestor Cortes wants to secure himself financially long term, he's going to need to put up a big year this year so that not only he can get an arbitration raise next year, but also be a viable free agent on the market when he eventually gets there. Nestor Cortes cannot afford to have a bad year this year, not just from the perspective of the Yankees need him to be good so that they're a good team, but also from the perspective that Nestor Cortes wants to have a longer career. And furthermore, I imagine he wants to be known as more than just a one-year wonder. Despite what people think, athletes take a great deal of pride in their work and their reputation. Nobody wants to be known as a joke. Nobody wants to be known as a dud. Nobody wants to be known as a fluke. They want to be known as great. And Nestor Cortes has the opportunity to establish himself as one of the better starters in the American League once again. If he can get that fastball back to where it needs to be in terms of movement profiles, which I believe he can if he's just remotely healthy, then everything will likely fall into place for him, and I think he'll end up getting back to his not all-star numbers, but just pretty good ones, at least for 2024. I don't know what the long-term future is for Nestor Cortes in pinstripes. I don't know what the long-term future for him is in the league as a whole, but what I do know is that a great Nestor Cortes can lead this team to a World Series caliber season, and that's the big thing here. The Yankees have a lot of question marks in their rotation. Fellow southpaw Carlos Rodon comes with his own question marks as well, and guys like Clark Schmidt are going to need to be better. Marcus Stroman's going to have to prove he's healthier. Garrett Cole's going to have to repeat a brilliant Cy Young season, and they're going to need some of their minor league guys to step up and provide big-time innings for the team when needed. Here's the thing, you can't guarantee that Nestor Cortes is going to be good this year, but everything we've heard in spring training thus far would suggest that he's progressed nicely from his shoulder injury. Andy Martino of SNY reported earlier today that he is throwing at his normal velocity in side sessions and that his shoulder and rotator cuff feel perfectly fine. Those are really encouraging signs because shoulder injuries can be fickle, and it wasn't too long ago that Frankie Montas would randomly get announced to need shoulder surgery that would knock him out for the entire season. Nestor Cortes is a pivotal part of this rotation. The New York Yankees had high hopes for him entering 2023, and they have high hopes for him coming into 2024, but they're going to need him to live up to expectations because this team is the team to get it done. Juan Soto's a New York Yankee right now. They can't guarantee that for the future, and nobody knows how many years of prime Aaron Judge and prime Garrett Cole you'll have left before they start declining, and you're going to need to start relying on other guys to be ace caliber or superstar caliber players in your lineup or rotation. I'm not saying Nestor Cortes has to be an all-star. He does not need to put up a 2.44 ERA to be good enough for this team, but he does need to put up above average run prevention numbers, and again, just make enough starts throughout the season so that the Yankees aren't burning through their pitching staff by May or June. Look, I think Nestor Cortes has everything left to still be a pretty good starter in this league, and it appears that the former president feels the same way.
Nestor Cortes, where is Nestor? He's a great pitcher. Got that fastball.
Anyways, I think Nestor Cortes will have a strong bounce back year this year, but let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is Nestor Cortes going to have a good year? What is his ERA going to be? How many starts is he going to make? We want to know all of that and more, and you guys can check out our other social media pages on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Check out EmpireSportsMedia.com for all of your favorite New York sports teams, and we want to thank you again for sticking through to the end of the video. I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees. You can check me out at Ryan Garcia ESM, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.